So how many of you have ever heard of the Rotary Club? Anybody know what that is? It's kind of, the Rotary Club is an organization made up of local businesses, and those organizations get together and pool their resources so that they can help the community. There's a Rotary Club virtually in every city and every town in the United States. It's a worldwide organization, and they try to make things better. They help local, they help statewide, they help nationwide, they help worldwide with different projects and different things. The local Rotary that we have, that Garnet Valley is affiliated with, they do a lot of things for the school, Rotary Students of the Month and things like that. One of the things that they started doing, well, maybe about 20 years ago, was this project called Project Strive. And their thinking was, there are so many kids in school who don't start off the right way. So they addressed the senior class, they talked to the guidance counselors, and they said, we want to talk to the kids in the class, the 100 kids who didn't do as well academically as they would have liked during the first 3 years. Because we want them to know it's not too late, right? And if they can kick off their senior year and have a good year, then good things can still happen for them. So in order to provide incentive for those students, they offered a monetary reward. First 3 people who raised their GPA the most during their senior year would get $1,200 to apply towards school or whatever they were going to do. So it was a really neat thing, it was a really good thing, it really benefited the students from Garnet Valley. So what they decided to do is they would have an assembly and they would invite a guest celebrity to speak to the students to kind of motivate them. Well, they did that for the first couple of years, and then the 3rd or 4th year they were doing it, they were down in enhancement, which you guys don't know, now you know Lunch and Learn. But they were in the auditorium during enhancement, and the celebrity didn't show up. So they had 100 kids in the auditorium, they had no celebrity to speak to them, so they came running down to my room, like, Mr. Ricky, could you come down and could you talk to the students in the auditorium? I said, sure, about what? Success. Right? I said, absolutely. How long do you need me to talk? For the next 45 minutes. Okay. So since then, I've been doing it every year. And the reason I tell you that is because while that's a really good talk for the seniors to hear, it's an even better talk for the freshmen to hear. Can one of you guys close that door for me? Just pull the thing out, put the wedge right inside. Thank you. So it's an even better talk for you guys to hear. So what I want to do today is just share with you some of the different things that I've learned over my 36 years here at Garnet Valley. I don't want you to write anything down. All I want you to do is listen. You don't even have to agree with me. I just want you to listen, and at the end of the day, after I get finished speaking, I want you to think of how this can apply to you. Right? So what I want to talk to you about are the observations that I've made in talking to the different kids who have gone through here in regard to, all right, success and successful people. Now, this is not going to surprise you. It's no surprise at all that one of the qualities that all successful people have is that they work hard, right? You guys could have probably told me that. Every one of you could have told me that. Successful, you have to work hard if you're going to be successful. And that's absolutely true. But what I found is not everybody really knows what that means. So the first day of school every year, early on, I tell the students in my class, everybody is born with different innate abilities, different innate skills. Some people are really good at music, some people are really good at art, some people are really good at talking with other people and have a high emotional intelligence. Some people are good at basketball, right? Everybody has something different. But we don't have any control over what our given talents are. Right? I don't have any control. I played sports my whole life. I always wanted to be 6'2". Right? I'm 5'10". If I let my hair grow, I used to have a big afro, I could get it up to 6'2" with my hair. But I was nowhere near 6'2". Right? I wanted to be able to run a 4.5 40. I ran, I lifted, I stretched, I did it. I couldn't. A 4.78 is the fastest I ever went, and that was downhill with the wind. Right? I'm never going to be able to do it. So what I learned is it doesn't make sense to worry about things that are out of your control. I can't worry about my height. I have nothing to do with it. It's my genetic, whatever it is. But so many people spend so much time worrying about that kind of stuff. Well, successful people have something figured out. They realize that it doesn't make any sense to do that. But what every successful person can control is how hard he works. All of us, everybody sitting in this room, you have the ability to control the effort that you put forth. Successful people make the most of that effort. So I don't know if you guys recognize this guy, Jim Valvano. Jim Valvano is former basketball coach at North Carolina State University. Jim Valvano in 1983 won a national championship. They beat the University of Houston. Many people consider it the greatest upset in the history of all sports. After that game, Valvano became a widely sought after motivational speaker. And I heard him speak at a banquet down in Baltimore in 1986. And there were a couple things that I remember that Jim Valvano said, but the most distinct thing that I remember that he said, every day you have a choice. You can work hard or you don't have to. Every person in this room, you made that choice today. You can work hard or you don't have to. You made it, I made it, Mr. Johanna made it, all the teachers, all the students in the school, everybody in the world. When you got up today, you make that choice. And guess what? And this is really important for you to understand. Nobody else can make it for you. Your teachers can't make it for you. Your parents can't make it for you. Your friends can't make it for you. You and you alone make that choice. You can work hard or you don't have to. Now here's the thing that goes with that. If you choose to work hard, that doesn't guarantee that you're going to be successful. But what it does is it puts you in great position for success to follow. However, if you choose to not work hard, then you're choosing to fail. And it's a choice that you make. Right? So, we used to go to Grail and Crest Pool. I don't know if there's any Grail and Gators in here. Anybody go to Grail and Crest down in Delaware? So you go down there. So my kids were on the swim team until they were, I don't know, 8 or 9. Jonathan a little bit older. But I would take them down to Grail and Crest Pool in the morning in the summertime. And then we would come home. And while they were practicing, I would sit in the corner and I would either work on my computer or read. I'm not one that just sits and watches my kids practice, or I'm not the coach. You know, I don't go over stuff with them. You should have kept your elbow. I don't do any of that stuff. To me, it's their thing, and they have their coaches. They can do it that way. So we were coming home one day. Jonathan was about 9. And as we were in the car on the way home, he said to me, he goes, "Dad, do you think that I work hard?" Right? It's a good question. So I thought about it for a second, and I said, "You know what? I think that you think you work hard." "Well, what do you mean, Dad?" I said, "Well, you go to practice every day, right?" "Yeah." "You do what the coach says?" "Yeah." "Do you try while you're there?" "Yeah." So I said, "So you think you work hard?" I said, "But really, you're just doing the bare minimum that's required. Every kid on the team, that's what they do." "Who are the best 3 swimmers on your team?" "Oh," he said, "that's easy, Billy, Mark, and Steve." I said, "Well, you know what's funny? Every time I go to that pool, I see Billy, Mark, and Steve working on their starts, working on their turns, working on their mechanics, swimming laps, doing something to get better. Those guys are working hard. They're doing what the bare minimum is and then some. Just coincidentally, they're the guys that are the best swimmers on the team." I used to come and do the weight room in the morning for the football team. After that, I would go up on the track and I would walk or run on the track. Every day for 3 years, I saw Coley Rickey up on the track working on her lacrosse skills. I saw Emily Mathewson working on her lacrosse skills. I saw Matt Moore working on his lacrosse skills. Every day, it didn't matter if it was 100 degrees, it didn't matter if it was raining, it didn't matter if it was super windy. Every day I saw them up there. Ryan Lehman. I saw those 4 up there every day, no matter what. And those 4, coincidentally, were all Americans. I guess they were just lucky. A lot of people think that they work hard, and really they're just doing the bare minimum. Think about you in school, right? You come to school every day, you go to class, you listen in class, the teacher gives you homework, you do it. And some of you do it as fast as humanly possible without trying to understand it, just to get it done so you could say, "I got it finished." But that's not working hard. That's doing the bare minimum. The people who get consistently good grades, they work hard. They put in more time. It's important to them. When you start to understand that, right, then it really starts to sink in and you realize, man, I'm responsible for who I am. So I was reading this Chicken Soup for the Soul. I love those books. And there was a little paragraph about a little boy who was swimming in the ocean. And this little boy went out in the ocean and he got caught in a riptide and he was quickly pulled under. And it looked like he was going to drown. There was a man on the beach who saw the whole thing happen and he rushed into the water. He pulled the kid out, put him on the beach, gave him a couple chest compressions, spit some water out of his mouth, and the kid revived. He sat up right away, looked at the man, he said, "Thank you, sir, you saved my life." And without hesitation, the man looked right back in the boy's eyes and he said, "That's all right, kid. Just make sure your life was worth saving." right? And he's telling the kid, you are responsible for what happens to your life. You. Nobody else. You. There's lots of people who will help you, but you're the one who has to make the decision to make it happen. Right? And that's what I'm talking about with working hard. Now, I've been teaching here for 36 years, and during my 36 years, I've given a ton of A's. If you earn an A, I give you an A. And my English class was much more difficult in terms of workload than what this class is. Right? But if you came into class, you were prepared, you worked hard, sometimes I'd have 32 kids in the class, 32 A's. Now, with that being said, I'm going to tell you this. With all the A's that I've given, the best student that I ever had never got higher than a C. So Rook is back there thinking, well, wait a second. I know an A is higher than a C. How can that be? Right? So bear with me. So back when this was a 7th through 12th grade school, right, I used to teach every 9th grader in the school in English. And I got a call one day from one of the 8th grade English teachers, and she said, Mr. Ricky, I have Heather in my room. This was in the spring of Heather's 8th grade. She wants to take honors 9th grade English next year, but she's not qualified to take it. I said, well, send Heather down to see me. Right? So I said, Heather, what's going on? She said, oh, Mr. Ricky, my English teacher, she doesn't want me to take 9th grade honors English. She doesn't think I can do it. I said, what do you think? Oh, I want to try it. I really want to get better at English. I really want to. I said, you're in. I said, you come in and work hard, we'll make it work. So Heather came into my 9th grade honors English class the next year. Within the first week, it was very clear that Heather didn't have the skill set that the other kids in the class had. And she knew it. So at the end of the week, she came to me, she said, Mr. Ricky, I'm really struggling in here. Do you think it's possible that you could meet with me after school? Absolutely. So every day we started to meet after school. After a couple weeks of that, she said, Mr. Ricky, I really appreciate the help, but I'm still not getting it. What time do you get to school in the morning? I said, oh, Heather, I get here at 6:30. She started coming in at 6:30. So now Heather was coming in before school at 6:30. She was here for English class, and she was staying after school. We did that for a couple weeks. She said, Mr. Ricky, it's getting better. I'm really starting to get it. What do you do for lunch? I said, I eat lunch in my room. I said, if you want to come down, come on down. So now Heather was before school, during class, at lunch, after school, every day. So we did that. On the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, right here in this very room, she was leaving. It was a half day. She turned around before she left. She said, Mr. Ricky, will you make a promise to me? I said, sure. She said, will you promise me that you won't grade me based on the effort that I'm putting in? I want you to grade me on the English that I learned, because that's why I'm doing this. I need to learn this English. She started out the year really low with her grade. She got it all the way up to an 81, which at the time was a C+. She never got higher than a C. But I always say she's the best student I ever had because she got the most out of her ability level, which to me is what determines a great student. An A, some people get an A and they don't have to do much. That doesn't mean you're a good student. Right? But Heather, this is what happened. After she got that C in 9th grade honors English, she decided the next year to take honors social studies as well. And then in her junior year, she took honors math. In her senior year, she took honors science. Heather ended up being on the honor roll, going to Widener for nursing, being asked to speak at her graduation because she did so well, getting a job at one of the top hospitals in Philadelphia, headed the nursing program, and now she lives down somewhere in Virginia, I think, and oversees the nursing staff on 6 different hospitals. Now let me ask you this. If Heather would have listened to her 8th grade English teacher, do you think she'd be where she is now? No way. There's no way she would be there. But Heather decided, I'm going to work hard. I'm going to put myself in position where good things can happen. And that's exactly what she did. Like I said before, it's really powerful when you realize that you and you alone are in charge of what happens to you. Right? So when I started teaching, a friend of mine who I went to college with knew me pretty well, and she sent me this poem. She said, I read it and I thought of you. The poem was called Try. He showed up one day before practice, a kid wearing t-shirt and jeans. One look would have told you he wasn't at all like the kids on the team. He wasn't as tall as the others. The toes of his feet pointed in, and his knees and his elbows were awkward. His arms and his legs were too thin. But he said to me, Coach, it's no secret that I'm small and a kind of thin guy, but just give me a chance and I promise that I will do nothing but try. It was maybe the way that he said it, or the look that was fixed in his eye, But somehow I knew I believed him. And I said, okay, kid, you can try. But I'll tell you, it won't be so easy, and I'm not going to give you a break. You'll work just as hard as the others, and you'll earn the position you make. Well, the kid started in with a smile, though he knew he was in for some pain, for he traveled a road that was rocky. He fought for each inch that he gained. The other kids often would tease him, call him names and play tricks on him too. They'd trip him and tackle him harder than anyone needed to do. But the kid would just smile as he lay there, then pick himself up with a grin and brush off the pain and get ready to go back and try it again. He tried twice as hard as the others, and when practice was over, I found he would work and he'd labor for hours, all alone with no others around. Then the jokes and the name calling ended, as I guessed that someday it must, and they treated the kid as an equal, for they knew he was someone to trust. That kid made the squad because he earned it, the smallest of all on the team, but he played with the courage that made him far greater than many I'd seen. Now often when my life is troubled and problems mount up to the sky, I think of the kid who came to me with only the promise to try. And I think how in trying he made it, in spite of the strife and the pain, in spite of the odds stacked against him, when everyone thought it in vain. And it gives me the spirit I've needed to allow me to cope and get by when I think of the kid who succeeded, because he had the courage to try. And I love that ending line, because he had the courage to try. You? Because most people don't. Most people are afraid to try because if they try, they might fail. And if you don't have the courage to try, you do yourself a huge disservice. If Heather didn't have the courage to try, she would be having the life that she has right now. Your choice, right? So first thing successful people do is they work hard. Successful people, the second thing that they do is they hold themselves accountable. They don't make excuses. I see so many excuses around here. It happens all the time. Somebody gets in trouble because they didn't sign up for lunch and learn. So they go down to the office, the assistant principal writes them up, right? And then they get mad at the assistant principal. Are you kidding me? You're the one that didn't sign up for lunch and learn. You knew the consequence. That's your responsibility. Why are you getting mad at him? You're the one that didn't do what you're supposed to do, or I'll see somebody who fails a test, fail a math test. Oh, my math teacher sucks. What? You're the one taking the test. Your responsibility. Don't blame the teacher. It doesn't do you any good, ever. It doesn't ever do you any good. I see it happen in sports. We had a kid one time who was a basketball player, point guard on the basketball team. They lost a really tough game, and I'd gone to the game the night before. He came into school the next day, and the first thing he did was blame the coach. Second thing he did was blame the official. I said, you know, I watched that game. I watched in the fourth quarter, you had like 6 turnovers. I said, was the coach's fault, the turnovers, the officials? You turn the ball over 6 times. If you don't do that, we win. Don't blame other people. It doesn't do you any good. Right, so a few years ago, well, every year, we have the senior class picture taken up on the football stadium. You probably heard the announcement earlier this year. All seniors report up to the football stadium. And for 31 of my 36 years here, I was a class advisor. So one year, Mr. Foraker and I, he was the co-class advisor, it was time for our class to get their senior picture taken. So they called us up to the football stadium. We were on our way up to the football stadium. And as we were going up there, Dr. Hook, who was the principal at the time, he called us down to the office. We had an emergency we had to take care of. Right? We went down there and it took us like 15 or 20 minutes. When we got up to the field finally, the photographer was up on a big ladder in the field. The kids were all up in the bleachers. But the kids were not cooperating. They weren't listening. And the poor photographer was exasperated. He couldn't get them to pay attention. So Mr. Foraker got up there before I did. He ripped into everybody, got everybody lined up, and they got the class picture taken. After the class picture, we were coming back to the auditorium because somebody from the class ring service was coming to talk to the seniors. Our class, I guess it was caps and gowns. Anyway, as that was happening, I helped the photographer carry his ladder back to his truck. And I said to him, I said, can I ask you a question? I said, was that behavior that you saw today, is that typical? And he stopped and he turned and looked at me. He said, you know what? I take 5 or 6 senior class pictures a day. And I've been doing this for 25 years. That group that I saw today was the most immature, uncooperative group I ever dealt with. So I went back to the auditorium. The guy from the caps and gowns wasn't there yet. So I told the class that story. One of the girls sitting in the front raised her hand, and she said, "Mr. Ricky, I can't believe that guy, what a jerk." And I said, "How many people agree with that?" So a small handful of people said, I said, "I want you guys to stand up." I said, "You see this group right here? If they don't change their attitude, if they don't start to take responsibility for their actions, this will be the most unsuccessful group that's from this class." Right? Because the first thing that she did was blame the photographer for telling something I asked him. Somebody who's successful would take ownership of that. "Oh man, we did act immaturely. That was ridiculous what we did." But she didn't want to do that. Right? So that's what I'm talking. When we played Downingtown West, the first game of the season this year, we lost to Downingtown West. It was a huge game. There was people from all over the place. It was one of the biggest games in the whole state of Pennsylvania, and we lost the game. You know what I said to our guys after the game? I said, "Here's the deal. We can't do anything about that game that just happened. It didn't go the way that we wanted. Here's how I'm going to tell if we're going to be a good team. If every player, all 106 players, and every coach, all 18 coaches, if they, and me included, if they ask themselves this question, what could I have done to make things better? What could I have done that might have changed the outcome of this game? More time in the weight room, more focus at practice, more hustle at practice, whatever it was. And when I get everybody asking that question and being sincere with that, then I know we're going to have a good team. Right? That team that lost then won 11 straight games. And they won 11 straight games because that's what they decided to do, because they decided to take responsibility for their actions. Anybody recognize this guy? Anybody know who that is? That's Bob Love. Bob Love was a basketball superstar for the Chicago Bulls in the late 60s, early 70s. 7-time leading scorer in the NBA. Bulls all-time leading scorer until Michael Jordan came and broke his record years later. Right? But Bob Love, as big a superstar as he was, all-pro, 7 years, Bob Love had a severe stuttering problem. And his stuttering problem was so bad that the reporters could never talk to him after the game because he couldn't respond. He could never do any commercial endorsements. He never made any money off of his ability because he couldn't speak. Right? Imagine LeBron James. Imagine Kobe, who couldn't talk. That's the level he was as the basketball player at that time. Anyway, Bob Love was a really hard worker. His last game that he played for the Chicago Bulls, he went up for a dunk. And when he went up for a dunk, he got his legs cut out from underneath of him. And from almost 10 feet high, parallel, he fell to the gym floor and broke his back.